sidewalk, a lot of times they have a concrete truck showing up for a foundation or whatever they're doing anyway. And when they tear out a section of concrete, equates to maybe a yard at most, or most likely it's about a half, quarter. That section of concrete, they have willingly repaired for and behalf of the town. And the process is taking place where they repair it, have a city employee come and inspect it. If it doesn't meet standards, they tear it out and they do it again. The city can do it. But here we have an issue with a contractor that's been an active contractor in the community for a number of years, who had a concrete truck there pouring a foundation, professional employees there finishing concrete, and he had a 4x4 section of concrete from a site that was the sidewalk that had to be filled in. He had it prepped and ready to go, and he was put a stop to because somebody said he had to be licensed and insured and bonded for up to $1 million to be able to pour that 4x4 section of concrete.
That was not what was said. Mr. Arndt.
You want me to come up?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Robert Arndt, 310 First North. Yeah, anybody can put concrete down. They can make it look pretty. Most of the problems with the quality of work that's done here is what's underneath. That's why it sinks down. That's why things crack. That's why we have water main breaks, is because it's not properly bedded. We need some standards in this town. We need to teach people what to do so it's done right and we don't have problems. We have big problems with that. I know, I get called to fix stuff. I see stuff all over the place. We need an inspector that'll go out and say, okay, yeah, anybody can throw dirt in a hole and put concrete over the top and make it look pretty, but what's it gonna look like in a few years? I can tell you what it's gonna look like in a few years. It's gonna sink and it's gonna break. There's another chunk.
First of all, don't you raise your tone with
Hey,
me.
I'm talking. Oh, shush.
Don't you raise your tone with me.
You do not have the floor.
You raise
You
your
will
voice
wait.
more than everybody else.
You will wait. You will wait as well, Mr. Arndt. You do not interrupt the person if you do not expect them to interrupt you. When you have the floor, I will give you the floor. Go ahead.
If anybody cares a look, there's a piece just west of the tracks, sidewalk that's been poured not long ago. It's already down a couple inches. That's the kind of thing where we're wasting money and effort and time by not having it properly backfilled and compacted, and we didn't have time to do it right the first time or the money, but we have time to go back and do it again. And maybe again another time or two also. Those things need to be addressed. It's good for everybody. And we need standards and we need an inspector. The stuff below is the most important.
Now the floor goes to Mr. Peck, Councilman, followed by Marcus, followed by Mr. Harmon in the back.
Well, the other issue that I have is we have a lot of community experts in this town. A lot of them that claim that they know exactly how things are done, which is fine. I don't have an issue with them having the ability to speak their mind and share their opinion. But when a contractor that has worked in this town for over 30 years, to my knowledge, I don't know how long he's been here, but he's been here at least that long, isn't qualified enough to pour a 4x4 section of concrete, now all of a sudden because you, Mayor, think he's not, or your husband thinks he's not, is asinine.
It has nothing to do with if we think he's qualified. It is a liability.
Since
As
when?
I was informed, let me finish. I was informed it was a liability the
From
day
who?
before. Hold on a second, let me finish. When we were looking to get a lawnmower repaired or get somebody to mow. I got a text from Councilwoman Lewis saying, we can't let anybody in the town mow the park. It is a liability.
That is correct.
Okay,
There's a big difference in mowing the lawn and pouring a section of concrete.
there certainly is, especially when it's on a public right of way.
And permanent.
Marcus, and then Mr. Harmon, and then Mr. Nate.
So I may have misheard, but it sounded like if a property owner took it upon themselves to repair damage to street or concrete, that they took ownership of that piece that they repaired. So if it sunk in 3 years from now, then they would be obligated to fix it.
Correct.
That is not my
I
understanding.
don't know that is correct.
That is correct.
No.
No.
When you use the term take ownership, it implies that it belonged to somebody at one point and now belongs to somebody new. That is
That's
not
right.
correct.
Well, maybe we
If
should.
it is in a right of way, it's the town's responsibility. And people should not be encroaching on the right of way without permission. But if they did do something and put sidewalk with agreement, that's going to have in. I don't think that changes the ownership or the right of the easement at all. It may extend liability to go to more than just the town. It may extend liability to go to the people who poured the concrete, but the ownership part is the only part that I have issue with.
And my understanding is they need to also come before the council and say, I want to do this repair for whatever reason, or adjustment for whatever reason. It has to come before the council to get approval. You don't just take it upon yourself to improve or to
Probably true. What I heard in this discussion, and I'll just pop this out, seemed to be on one side qualifications of being able to pour, and then the other side, the ability to pour. And I think where we start to run into some questions is, okay, it works fine with somebody who's been a contractor for all these years and is doing it and knows how to do it. But what about the homeowner who's doing it on their own? Do we have the same process to go through so we know who's doing it and who's pouring? I think that really becomes where the rubber meets the road on what process and procedures you should use, because you don't always know who is pouring. And if we have a process of approval, that helps us understand who is pouring. And again, I would just refer back to, I think I've suggested several times, when we get these issues, we need to put together some kind of process and procedure that outlines what we think it should be done in the situation in general. So we're not arguing about the specific facts underlying that action. And if we have the procedures, everything should flow. If we have the procedures of somebody hooking up, and if there's an issue for the sidewalk, this is who we would be using, that could just move forward with the hookups. If we're talking about, we have had people talk about, there was a sidewalk that seems to be tilted slightly the wrong way and needs to be improved. I don't know why that is, or who, or what may have caused the issue, but at least we should have an understanding. If it's a city, it's one thing, but if people are working on that, have a process to walk through it. Then our citizens understand what's going on, and our council, whoever that might be, understands why, at least in general purposes of why that's going on.
Marcus, can I get back to Mr.
Oh,
Harmon
yeah.
in the back? He's been very patient.
Elder Harmon 110. Sitting out there listening to this, and I'm gonna do a little defense for Mr. Chappie. I know he's poured in Cokeville, and thousands of yards of cement. I know he's licensed in the city for work, he's licensed in the county. This little incident we're talking about, we've had all kinds of time we could have taken care of it if we thought Mr. Chadwick wasn't qualified for that piece of cement. It's shameful when the man was ready to pour it, has done it. Thousands of yards of cement, and the man was told no, and he had to pour that cement into the dirt.
Wasted it.
It's a shame that we went through that, and if we needed our people to do it, there's Marcus and our people could have been there. We've had plenty of time to take care of this problem. Why did we wait today when it was being done to do? That's wrong, it's shameful that we did that to that man when he was ready to do it. And if we wanna be so strict with these rules, Robbie says he'll do this stuff, well, is he licensed, is he a professional, is he an engineer to know what compaction needs to be done? I know I'm not. But if that's what we're requiring, then we should be bidding these jobs out prior to this things taking place. So we got the right people, and the people then will be held accountable for their work. We need to come to the plate and do it right. Quit playing these games we're playing in here tonight. It's shameful.
I believe our attorney addressed this issue quite well, is that we need to get some standards or protocols or policies in place so that when these issues come up, we have something in place to address them. That was never addressed in the past, it needs to be addressed going forward. Mr. Nate and then Mr. Dayton, you had your hand up. And then Marcus, sorry.
Brad Nate, 200 per exit 415. Sorry. I'm going to agree with both Harmon and with Robbie. What we need to do is, this is just my opinion, but we need to have some standards. This town, you guys represent the town. And so the way I view this is we need to have standards, and we cannot continue to badmouth what has happened in the previous lifestyle. We need to move on today with correct people who can inspect it, people who can make sure it's right. I don't care. I believe that man probably has every bit of capability to do what he needs to do. But it needs to go through the proper channels. And if it went through the proper channels, even if he got cement early, he shouldn't do it until it's done the way it's done. The problem is, guys, the way I see it is, we put this money and effort, even his money and effort, okay? And let's say it sinks, as an example, I'm not saying it's going to. And now you gotta go and make it ADA compliant, and go get it, have Marcus or whoever go over it and ground that thing so that it's not a big old problem. Sometimes those things cost more than just getting it done right, whether or not he was willing to give you that or not. If it was done right the first time, it might not cost us so much in the long run. There are many places where people have home fixed it. Trust me, guys, you don't want me to come fix your cement, okay? Or even fix my own cement in front of my house. Yeah, I've poured cement. I've helped Shane Pope many a times. I've helped my own father. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your qualification. It really should matter if it's gone through the channels, if it's city property, it needs to have someone there who's observing it. If they've got a contract, it just needs to go through those methods. And even though we've never done it before and everything's been a handshake or a howdy-do or a tip my hat, we can't do that anymore. We're in the new times. We just need to do it the right way from the very beginning. And that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Marcus and then Mr. Dayton.
You get Mr. Dayton first.
I'll be super fast. 208 and 205 State Street. I agree with what he said. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that we improve so this kind of stuff doesn't happen? That's my concern, because I've heard lots of, well, this happened and this was done wrong and this was done badly. Who's gonna take responsibility for what he said to make sure that just going forward, we avoid that kind of stuff? Because I agree, if you have to do the same thing 2 or 3 times, it probably would cost you more than if you just did it one time right first. So I just wonder who that is.
That is an issue that has been discussed and never decided by council.
Well, come on, council, let's
I
do
know
it.
we've kicked the can down the road, as they say, where we do need to have
Bid it
a
out,
town
no, I
inspector, a building inspector in the town that is qualified to inspect those kinds of things. Whether it's putting up a new building, whether it's putting concrete in front of your, whatever you have to get a permit for, we should have a building inspector there to make sure that things are being done right.
I'm not saying building inspector as much as he said to avoid future problems, let's get something figured out. Who's going to create the itinerary or the expectations? When is it gonna happen?
As soon
People
as
right up there.
council is willing to submit it in writing and we can get it incorporated into our ordinances, which take 3 readings. Councilman Peck first, then Mr. Harmon in the back.
I forgot Marcus.
Oh, I'm sorry. Marcus, go ahead.
I was just
Stand
gonna
up,
bring up
Marcus.
the point that I'm Mr. Worldwide in here, and you walk down the streets of New York or Philadelphia, sidewalks ain't perfect. Daggone. And we don't have a smidgen of the budget those big daggone cities got. That's all I got to say.
Now, Mr. Peck, and then Mr. Harmon.
So, I have a couple of issues here. One, I agree with Brother Nate here, Mr. Dayton. I even agree with Robbie, everything does need to be done right. The biggest problem that we have right now is there's nothing that says that we have a standard to go forward. But yet you're shutting down people that are doing work without having a standard to cite. And that's one of the biggest issues that I have. If you don't have a standard to cite of why you're shutting them down, then why are you shutting them down? Now granted, do we need to do the work to go forward and get things correct? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is one of the things that we've been trying to bring up countless times, is that we need to go over our zoning ordinances. Because the last time I looked at them, they were updated in like 1987. I was 1 year old then. Pretty good stuff right there, I bet you. They still had lead paint, I think, back then. But I'm here to tell you, you can't go out there and be the bad guy when you don't have anything in place to move forward to. That's the biggest problem I have with it right now. If we had something in place that said, this is why you can't do this, or this is what the procedure you should have followed, then I'd be fine with it. But there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there.
We can create a policy and get it passed on 1 reading. It does not have to be in an ordinance, I believe. And so if by next month, on our town council meeting, which will probably be on September 13th, I believe, we can come
I
forward
wasn't
with a
finished,
policy.
Mayor, thank you.
Sorry.
Until we have such a policy, we cannot continue to go down and be the bad guy in the neighborhood. It just causes more drama in this town than we need. It's a freaking joke. Every single stinking city council meeting, we sit up here and the public's pissed at us because somebody stirred the pot. And I'm gonna tell you right now that somebody that stirred the pot is not me, him, or her.
All I requested is that they had to get permission from the council before they moved ahead to repair public.
Where
property.
does it say that? It doesn't.
It doesn't say that they don't have to either.
But it's your
Well,
job
it-
to see that it gets
you have
done.
You have no authority to cite it.
That's where we have our public works employees to oversee such
As
stuff.
a council, get it done.
Marcus?
I'm sorry, my only beef is 2 poles at Craig Chadwick's. I packed, I got it all ready for him as the owner of the property to take care of the rest of it. Washed my hands of it, went on to the next Cokeville problem. And then I had to stop all that and emergently go over there and redo something. And
It's an asinine.
it's playing with the city's time, never mind Marcus's time, cause you're paying me for my time.
Simple.
But it's playing with the city's time, going and redoing jobs, cause in the middle of the night, we get a brainstorm that, oh, we should have done this. Well, sometimes as a leader, once you make the decision, right or wrong, you own it. I don't think there's a lot of ownership in Cokeville right now.
Mr. Mr. Nate. Oh, Mr. Harmon first, he was, had his hand up, then Mr. Nate. I'm trying to juggle all these.
You're doing a great job.
Wayne London, 430 East Main. People, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. I think it depends on the project. Like this project's going on down there now. Mr. Chadwick, he had everything prepared, he had it formed. Who knows if it was, compacted right? He had it compacted. You know, and I think as long as it's that project, and he is willing to put the cement in as he puts the cement in his project there, and it's formed up, let him do it. Cause if you're having somebody else come in and do that, you're double dipping. And the thing is, this town has inspectors from the planning and zoning. They're over the projects, whatever, project there is, they have an inspector that should be there on the project to check it in when they start and when they're finished. Seth Moyer, he's the inspector, and if it was inspected by him, and he gives you okay, I see no problem with Mr. Chadwick pouring the cement and putting it up there. I mean, you guys are saving money, you're killing two birds with one stone. You're just making things bigger than they should be.
And it's creating drama that's unneeded.
Now, Mr. Nate.
Brad Nate, 200 Pearl. Sorry, you guys have to hear too much of me. I'm a professional lawnmower man. Done it for 40 years. I was 8 years old when I first started. That doesn't give me the right to just go and mow the city stuff. All I'm saying is if this was stopped because that was a liability issue, and the other one was stopped because it was a liability issue, it's still a liability. It needs to be, so we're arguing over the wrong thing. The only thing I have to ask is, I'm gonna ask Cody this if you don't mind. Would you please take charge and get something done as far as getting an ordinance written down so that we can get that policy taken care of, because I know you look very passionate about it. I've been watching your facial features. Instead of being upset with everybody, I'm challenging you to go ahead and write something up that you can bring toward this board by the next meeting and have something prepared.
Absolutely.
The other thing I have is, there should be this room should be used every month for at least one ordinance review.
Absolutely.
Every single time, and we are not doing it. It is bitching and moaning constantly over sewer and water and a damn street.
What runs the town?
You got to do other things, you can't just do sewer and water every freaking meeting. And guys, have we even improved, have we even made a movement on it? We have. I'm not saying it doesn't have value. There are other things that have value too, and you are missing that for our community right now. There are ordinances that you could do at the same time as arguing your points for the water and sewer. Please review at least one ordinance at every meeting. That's your legislative duty.
You're right.
Thank you.
It's the,
Yeah.
the mayor isn't part of the legislature.
Okay, she's not.
She's the mayor.
Yeah. Getting this whole area in pieces and trying to put together what happened. Who gave permission for the section of sidewalk to be removed?
Nobody.
It's given when they give the permission for the tap to be put in.
Okay, so it's specifically given that they can remove the sidewalk?
No, it's not written out in specifics, it's just something that happens when you excavate.
Well, I'm guessing that as we move forward with that, that is probably the contingent that needs to be dealt with. So if there's a possibility that when we're tapping, sidewalk or street is going to get cut into,
Correct.
we should probably up front know how they're planning to handle repairs if that happens. And then that information could be there, and if it's somebody who's licensed for concrete, it shouldn't be a problem. that it be done.
Martha?
When you say we, are you talking about them, or are you talking about
When I-
public works?
When I say we, I am talking about,
The town.
the town council putting together the form so that when it's processed, that information is dealt with up front with those common, it seems to be common contingencies, so we know, because that way, one person who's doing it, if they're going to head into the sidewalk, may say that will be dealt with, hired afterwards.